One of them wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
No, hold on. I can't start because I'm sharing my Facebook page. This is the new dilemma here in social media.
On social media.
Well, it's a social media show. What a coincidence! I happen to mention that I'm trying to share this on Facebook. So we are live on Facebook. So all my friends, relatives, fiends, and foes, please go out there and share the show on Facebook, and you'll see this on YouTube as well. Just push the share button, send it out to your friends, out to your page, that kind of thing. And hopefully, Under the Shield is listening from I can't remember that location. It's someplace far away.
Yeah.
And they can watch the show. So we're really excited about this tonight, and I have a special guest. First, Mr. Paul Bristow is a special guest now because you happen to be in today.
You might get.
Which usually you're not in, so I'm glad you're here. And then Dr. D from the Dr. D Show stopped by. She's a forensic neuropsychologist. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad you're here because we had a little pre-show. We had a discussion about the psychology behind this stuff, and I think this is going to be really interesting to talk. It's a new phenomenon.
It is.
Social media. And I think social media is a game changer. In other words, I think it's one of those human events that's going to alter our behavior. Do you agree?
Already is.
Already does.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think people have caught on to how serious it is, and we'll see that today in the show. And to that end, we're going to talk to our special guest today from Chicago. That's Phil Harris of Geophilia. Phil, welcome.
Thank you, Chuck.
Glad you could finally be here with all this technical stuff we're doing. So what we're going to do today with Phil is we're going to Phil's company Geophilia captures social media and then uses that to analyze it for different things, for crime solving, all kinds of stuff. And we're going to show some real live social media, first of all, from around the world as it's happening. And then we're going to look at some archive stuff like from Dallas, Nice, and that kind of thing to see what goes on during these active shooter events, which is kind of interesting. So, Phil, I did a terrible job explaining what Geophilia does. So why don't you go ahead and do that for us so people can understand the significance of this.
Thanks so much, Chuck. We are a social media intelligence.
Phil, I think your camera's off. Get your camera back on there. We got a slide, so let's get your camera.
Okay.
See you there.
Let me get back to...
Oh.
Does that work?
There we go. There we go. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much, Chuck. We are a social media intelligence platform, and we ingest billions of social media posts from over a dozen sources, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Russian service called VK, Chinese service called Sina Weibo. And this data comes to us in a raw format from global locations, from users on smartphones at those locations. And we filter the data for relevancy, and that depends on our customer's mission. The posts come in a variety of formats. Tweets are in text, but then we also have pictures and videos and even live streaming of events on services like Periscope. And this information is transmitted real time in the moment as events unfold. And in fact, global news outlets rely on Geophilia to understand what's happening at impacted locations to even break the story. So it really is the fastest way to understand what's happening at a place. I guess in safety and security parlance, we call it situational awareness. And everyone has a voice. And I know we have some experts on the call tonight with who understand the psychology around what's happening in our culture, but sharing is one of the most important things that the younger generation does in their day. I'm close to 50 years old, but my children, for example, sharing with their friends, sharing with the world at large is probably one of the most important things that they do during their day. And this ability to share with a smartphone through a high bandwidth connection allows just an unbelievable tapestry of information. So we see unbelievable and unprecedented intelligence coming from locations all the time, especially impacted locations, and we see spikes in activity when an event happens. So when something really great happens or something really negative happens at a place, we see bumps in the activity. Now, the number of sources that exist keep exploding. The number of smartphones keeps increasing. So what we see is a surge, continued surges in data. Our job is to filter it and look for relevancy so that our customers can take action on it. And so this is really the new game changer in social media intelligence. There's lots of social media platforms that have been invented over the last, I'd say, 6 to 8 years that are focused towards marketers, and they're looking for trends and patterns. How many times is the word Pepsi mentioned over the last month, and how does that compare, to months prior? Looking at sentiment related to a brand. With smartphones and specifically GPS capabilities, we can better understand those conversations by location, and I think that's really the new power of citizen journalism and the ability to share what we're experiencing, what we're feeling, what we're doing at locations around the globe. And I think the aha moment for us was when we invented the technology, and we didn't really know who would use it. And we're just delighted to, I think, unlock value for a whole new range of potential customers. So it's new, it's exciting, and we really appreciate the opportunity to share the message here on the show.
Well, we're gonna cover a lot of stuff today. Did I hear the word billion spoken? A billion social media?
Well, billions. I mean, every day there's just, the quantity is just enormous.
And you capture these things in different areas, and we can look at them.
Yes, and we filter them and organize them by specific locations. So whether it's right now at the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, or whether it's at an impacted location, like I just noticed there was an event in Japan where there was a mass killing in Japan. So these events keep happening. So yes.
Well, I remember when we planned the show, we were thinking about doing something from Paris, and since then we've had 10 others.
Yeah,
I just can't keep up with it.
Do you see a limit on the amount of information that you can actually take in and analyze?
Well, we are very, very lucky because with the latest technologies and cloud-based architectures, we're able to ingest gigantic quantities of data. And this was not possible just even a few years ago without these new programming languages and without this cloud network. And you can access it all through a browser. So I don't know, my engineers tell me there's no limit, but we keep fighting to keep up. I'll be honest, keep fighting to keep up with the amount of data because it keeps swelling.
So let's break this down in a couple areas. We have for lack of a better term, a moral issue. We have a legal issue. We have the psychological issue, right? So I think most of my friends who are not technical don't understand that this is a public record. So explain what that means to people, that your social media is not private. Maybe your text messages are, but not completely, by the way. But for your purposes, you're not getting text messages. You're just getting something off your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, all that stuff. That's what you're seeing.
Yes. So we can only access and do only access publicly available information. And the purpose of social media is to share. Right. Sometimes we share privately, sometimes we share publicly, and it's that public information that we capture, and then there's a further way for a user to share in a more profound way, and that's adding location attributes to the data.
Right.
And this is what helps us organize it by location. And so we like to say that when you turn on your GPS and you share with social media and you share publicly, it's almost like you're on the rooftop saying, I was here, I saw it, I witnessed it, I was there, and I can authenticate that.
So Paul, you're safe.
Yeah.
All those
questionable
things you have, those private messages, everything's safe enough.
Everything's growing
private
quiet.
with me, believe
That's right. All right, so you hit on an interesting word there, Phil. You said share, and Dr. D and I were talking about this before the show. I think this is and when I said this, I was just talking off the top of my head, but you said there's actually a name for it. I think this is a new illness or something. I don't know. I think people cannot distinguish what's real on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. They don't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. And I think a big danger in this is that people are looking at this stuff and saying, "Oh, if that's really happening, I need to do something about it." Mm-hmm. So talk about that.
You know, in the field of psychology, we're going towards understanding that this type of phenomena, when it starts disrupting a person's functioning, we can start classifying it as something that's more of a psychological impairment and a condition. So when you look at the DSM, when you look at psychological evaluations, you would look at a group of factors that would describe a phenomena. This type of a phenomena, what I would like to propose is described as a social perceptual disorder type phenomena, where there is a gap between reality and an illusion. Reality and a perceptual idea of what reality actually is.
But how do you tell? I mean, I grew up with a TV that was black and white, and that was an anomaly. And then we got a color one, that was magic, right? But my kids, the TV is real. It's like it's the only thing they know. So are you saying that people can't distinguish a tweet from a comment, from an opinion, from a fact? I mean, is that
Here's how it works. We are mammals. So the first most essential thing that we like to do, that is healthy for us to do as humans, is to connect. Okay? Sharing is a way of emotional connection, getting validation, getting communication. It is actually monitored when you look at the physiological reaction of individuals who are engaging in social media. It's as if they're socializing face-to-face with another human being.
Oh, so that's
in
different
a
than
positive way.
We hear that it's a disconnect, but you're saying it's not completely disconnected.
No, it is actually promoting oxytocin, which is what we...
oh, that's what that feeling is. Okay. I wonder.
The hormone of love. But we do that, when we socialize. And part of what's happening, we get fully engaged. And the reason that is so deceiving is because when you are with an object, that isn't in front of you, it seems to be as if you have a sense of intimacy. There is a sense that it's just me and the other person I'm communicating with. And so that false sense of intimacy opens the door for individuals to have an impaired judgment in how they're actually utilizing this type of intimacy. And they are more likely to disclose information that otherwise they would have never disclosed had they known the type of individuals that can actually have access.
That's very interesting. Phil, do you see, you've been doing this, about 3 years now? 3 or 4 years? Oh, we lost your audio, Phil. Where's Phil's audio?
Oh, we're sorry. We're a little over 4 years.
Okay, so do you see a rise in the type of data that's being shared publicly? And hey, here's a picture of my 1967 Camaro, and now here's a picture of my Winky. Is it changing?
It's the number of the variety is changing, and I think as the market gets more sophisticated, there's certain kinds of ways to share, whether it's the format, whether it's text, pictures, or videos, whether it's temporal, like Snapchat, where you send a communication and then it goes away after 10 seconds or 20 seconds.
But not completely.
Snapchat.
Do you capture that, by the way?
No, we do not capture Snapchat.
Oh, okay.
Or whether you want to frankly add location. There's some networks that promote it when it's easier to use it, and so I think I see that our person will have maybe multiple formats depending on what they're trying to achieve, whether that's a private format or it's a public format or just a different sharing method altogether.
Now, go ahead.
I would also say that, and it's along the lines of what you're indicating, there is a sense of being able to win in a very cheap way popularity and acceptance and recognition in social media. You have to do very little. In fact, you don't have to be very bright. You don't even have to be real.
Well, I know that.
To actually get
that.
the wonderful feeling of being popular and being attractive to people. And so that sense of freedom, again, it's that gap between perception versus reality.
I've actually found with the with the current political climate and what's going on, I've actually found myself getting engrossed in what's going on Facebook and feeling that by sharing posts and your stuff, you know,
Right.
and all the rest
Well,
of it.
don't share mine. You'll get unfriended.
I know. Yeah, well, I've already been defriended a couple of times. But you just get sucked into it. It's amazing. You know, and I'm only playing on it for 5 minutes. But
So, Phil, this is a
it's
game
pretty
changer to me.
amazing,
Would you
really.
agree with that? I think this is a human event, game-changing type of thing that's happening, where we're not going to be seeing people the same way. We're not going to be interacting the same way. I think, you know, Geophilia will be the new news station. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
The changes are so enormous, and they are so just profound that yes, it is. It's. I think it's turning the news industry on its head. It's changing the way we communicate with each other, the speed with which we communicate, and it's like any new technology and like any new shift. There's there's best practices, there's pitfalls, there's ways to use it appropriately, and so I think we as a society are navigating it together. But it's happening, and it is going to keep happening. And really, it's rooted in technology. This, when we invented this technology and we patented it, we felt like somebody's going to do it, and we felt like we could build a company that would do it responsibly and do it in a way that encouraged best practices as we navigate a evolving and maturing of the market.
So, when you first came up with this, what were your moral feelings on it? Your gut feeling on it? There's controversy in this. I mean, I think it's the best thing in the universe. I think it's wonderful. I'm all about transparency and getting information in real time and facts. But some people don't like this. Right? I mean, some people think it's not the right thing to do.
Well, I think I remember the social media networks themselves coming under pressure when they first launched. And the classic story was maybe someone launched their Facebook page, and then they announced on their Facebook page, "Hey, I'm going to Cabo for a long weekend. I'll see you guys when I get back from my vacation." And then they come home and their house is robbed. Okay, and then people say, well, Facebook is bad because this person said that they were going to go on vacation, and somebody looked at it, and it was a public page, and then they were harmed. That is, that obviously isn't the right thing to do in a public environment, to let people know that you're not going to be home. And in a similar way, I think this way of sharing, there's appropriate ways to share, and there's, I think, frankly, ways that should be kept private. And it's that, I think, societal adoption and best practices that I think we're learning collectively, but I think we're in it together. I think the original vision was to just do something really cool technologically. Like, it's like, can we make social media more relevant and actionable for the enterprise? And the big problem with the industry, the business to business software market, was we're not finding good, actionable, relevant data, yet there's a lot of data. And so we thought, what if we can embark on a way to make it usable by corporations and even government agencies? And so that was the problem. And I think we've cracked that nut.
Now, the big problem Paul and I see with social media, Dr. D jumping on this one, is images are created or ruined, right? And I think, and Phil, we're going to have some law enforcement tweets. We're going to see those in a minute, I think, from some of the events that have happened recently. And I think law enforcement has lost their ability to own their image right now because they're a little behind in the technology.
Sure.
They're getting
Well,
there.
always have been.
Yeah, they always have been. But I
Some
think
of the best ones out there are behind.
it's true, right? So I think that law enforcement needs to own this. So, for example, I can't remember which shooting it was. Forgive me, but an officer really got the crap beaten out of him. And this didn't come out until 6 or 8 months later, when they could have tweeted the photograph of the guy in the hospital saying, "Look, I got the crap beat out of me."
Ferguson. That was Ferguson, right?
I can't remember,
Yeah.
right? But I don't want to say if I don't know for sure. But
Yeah.
if they had owned that, maybe that would help change a perception. And until the facts came out, at least it would have a partial fact that says, listen, it wasn't what you heard on the tweet that it was murder. There's something more there.
It's interesting what you're saying, because I was in a meeting with brilliant individuals, brilliant minds, and I looked around the room and all these great ideas were exchanged. And I finally stood up and I said, do you know why this is not going to work? because they wanted to reach out to the public. And I said, the reason this is not going to work is because I'm the youngest person in the room. That is why you're going to fail. Because if you're not getting the young generation,
Right.
if you're not reaching all of your great ideas, if I'm the youngest one, you're in trouble. Because if we don't reach the young generation and we don't give them the right information right away in the way that they understand it via the methods that they use, which is social media, we're going to lose the battle. It's whoever comes first and access these kids' brains that gets to augment the way that they're developing. And, you know, based on sort of what you're saying with Geophilia, is what's interesting is that you're getting this influx of information, but there's no filtering. There's no
point.
internal filtering.
Right.
People don't filter the kind of information that comes their way. So they're constantly being augmented. Now, when you're older and you're fully developed and then you hit social media, which is us.
And
okay?
grouchy helps.
Grouchy,
You
older.
were grouchy when you were
right.
young.
Well, that's true. It was.
That's a different category right there. But, you know, but when you're already fully developed. Your brain does things differently. These young people develop now with less eye contact. You know, one of the diagnostic
that's
criteria.
true. There is no eye contact with
Right.
young
In
people.
psychology, we say one of the abnormal things about young people, and you look at autism and you look at certain conditions, there's lack of eye contact. Okay. But today, if I'm going to take that as a primary criteria, almost every single kid on my street is going to have autism.
When my son was in
And
high
they
school,
don't.
and
Well,
his buddies came over to the house, I used to look at him in the eye, and my son would say later, "Dad, don't do that."
But I've
Scaring
got to
them.
tell you,
Right. You're
I'm scaring them.
But I've got to tell you, when I first got over here, and you know, from England, and nobody looks you in the eye in England,
No.
okay? Because if you look at somebody in the eye, you're staring at them.
confrontational.
You're
Right.
going to get a punch.
Right.
So when I come over here, and everybody said, "Well, investigations, you know, if they're not looking in you in the eye, they're lying."
Right.
That doesn't go.
In certain cultures it doesn't go. But you know, it's interesting because with kids, but not so much in a investigative way, but more in a setting, in a normal social setting, you're seeing young people not making eye contact with each other, talking sort of through a screen, because that's what they do throughout
I've
the
seen
day.
kids
Yeah.
text each other 10 feet away.
Right.
I'm
Oh,
serious.
They
Yeah.
text their mother. Did you hear that? Did you hear
it's
that?
crazy.
They're in the top floor and
But-
they're texting
yeah.
their mother about dinner.
I just find that people are just naive now. Whereas, you
No,
know,
I think it's to her point.
we never used to believe, and I don't believe anything until I do
Right.
the research, and I was always like that. I never believed anything from anybody.
Now,
but I
Phil,
think people are just naive.
Here's a
now.
challenge
Right.
for
They
Geophilia.
do. They're
And you're,
open.
Believe in it.
you're just a presenter of the tweet, the photo as it sits, and if we have lack of filters, tell us how Geophilia uses that data and creates facts that they could use, or a data analysis, because there's the data analysis piece in here. And I'll tell you a quick example, and I don't know if this is your client, and you don't have to tell me this, but I live in Burbank, and one day all these police cars are zipping up Buena Vista Avenue, and you know all the police cars in Burbank are going to the mall. And I call my buddy and say, "What's going on?" He says, "Well, we had a tweet come out that said there's going to be a big what do you call it when you rush the mall and steal everything?
Oh,
A swarm."
I should know that.
Yeah, a swarm.
go on.
And there's going to be a swarm. And so what happened was they got on this. They parked all the cars at the mall. And when all these guys started showing up for the swarm, they said, "Sorry, fellas, can't come in here."
No swarm.
And they
today.
stopped it. They stopped it. I mean, and I think they used a service like yours or your service to do that. So how does Geophilia, maybe you could show us a shot or something, is how do you take these, you know, millions of social media things and put them into some sort of data that people can use and analyze?
Great question, Chuck. We, at the front end, and I can show a graphic here in a moment, but we ingest all these posts from a wide range of networks. We organize them by geolocation, and then we add alerting criteria to and some algorithms to the data, the raw data that we collect. So when there's a spike in activity, that's a trigger for an alert. If there's a keyword match, if there's a use of a certain word in higher frequency than normal, these kinds of we have certain image detection. If certain images or emojis emerge in the stream, that'll be an indicator. And so our customers then receive these alerts. Now they have to interpret them. We are technologists, and so that's where policy and judgment and operationalizing the data is really the next phase of it. We are a raw, data collection and analysis
Right.
company.
So maybe you can pull up a slide and show us some of the maybe some samples of how it looks. So
Sure.
if I was at ATAP. Remember ATAP last year? So I sent out a tweet, "Hey, I'm at ATAP," and it popped up on your screen instantly because we had what they call a geofence, geographical fence, electronic drawn around the map where Anaheim Convention was, and you could see anything within that place you mapped out, anything that was social media popping up in real time. It was really fascinating. So let's see if Phil can get up a page here and
Okay.
show us something. And since we're going to be on podcast of this, I will also try to maybe narrate what we're looking at, or if I can't see it, you can help us with that too, Phil.
Can you see the?
Yeah, there we go. There's
Okay,
Phil
great.
Harris, co-founder. There we go.
Okay.
So for people that are listening on SoundCloud, if you go to YouTube, you'll see this on the video as well.
Right. So we discussed that 70% of Americans have a smartphone, and this is really the way you share social media from a location with GPS on a smartphone. Massive amounts of usage, surging. I think Twitter shared with us some research that we take our smartphone out of sleep mode. It's like 160 times a day. We
Wow.
live and breathe
Yeah.
with these devices. And then, of course, location is the new attribute. So here's how we do it. This is a person on the left taking a picture of in the Capitol across one of these networks. We have a dozen sources I mentioned before, and then that's where we play with our algorithms in the middle.
That dozen sources, meaning Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Those are the social media
Yes.
pages. Yeah.
YouTube,
Yeah.
Periscope, Vine, VK, Instagram. There's a wide range of social sources in there, and then we interpret it and then help our customers determine what kind of situation is unfolding. And I wanted to chronicle an event that happened in Brussels and how we helped one of our corporate customers. And this goes back a couple of months, but we had a coordinated 3 bombs detonated, 2 at the airport and 1 at Malbeek Metro Station. And what happened was at 7:55 a.m., the attackers arrived at the airport in a taxi, and at 7:58, 2 explosions detonated local time, 9 seconds apart. Almost within a couple of minutes, even though there was mass chaos in the airport, one of the passengers who had just arrived on a plane witnessed the explosion and immediately sent out, in this case it was a tweet, I believe, that they saw an explosion. We then sent what we call a keyword alert. It triggered a keyword alert to our customer. And then what we saw from there forward is a massive surge in data, and that triggered what we call a threshold alert. Now,
Oh, okay. Yeah, like a surge in people. All of a sudden, nobody's tweeting, and all of a sudden, you got 1,000 tweets at once.
Yeah, from that location.
Right.
From that location. So that's the key point, is that when we have an event like Boston bombing or some other major event, there is a ton of social media. 99.9% of it is not coming from the impacted location. It's coming from other people who are part of the conversation. We focus on what's happening on the ground at a location. So our customer actually had operations as a corporate customer in Brussels, and for them, employee safety is a major concern. And so they received these alerts and then immediately notified their employees to not commute to work that day. Now, what we didn't know was that the attackers were planning another bomb at the metro station in
Right.
Malbeek at 9:11 a.m. Okay, and then of course you see immediately information coming from there, and so we are told that.
Now, this is an actual. I'm looking on the screen. This is an actual. Is that an Instagram picture? I can't tell what it is.
This one I think is an Instagram picture. Yes.
And
So we're kind of agnostic. We're looking for any sort of signal, or frankly, multiple signals to kind of verify the authenticity of the
Right.
event. Sometimes people will post something that's not real. This is raw and unfiltered data. We don't interpret it other than look for some algorithmic matches. And we're looking for thematic patterns, not specific users. We're
all right,
looking
that's
for
fair enough. Yeah. All right.
topics and trends. So in this instance, it was almost very quick identification, and then of course our corporate customers then in this specific case told their employees not to commute. Some of whom commute through that Malbeek train station that had a bomb blow up at 9/11, and of course 20 more people were killed. So that's a very quick chronology of that specific situation.
And this all happened within, I can't see the timeline. We're talking, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, this stuff comes out?
Yeah, the first 2 bombs happened within a couple of minutes, and then the next bomb happened about an hour later. And here's the same data from the airport. You see a range of data. You see chaos. You see a very normal situation or normal day in the life of an airport, and then you see things turn highly abnormal.
What's the first one that, is there an ability to zoom in on that and see what the first social media post was about it?
Well, this is a PowerPoint, but I can get the actual application and show you some live things.
Okay, we'll do that next. Okay, that's fine. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then we had the Dallas shooting happen here just not too long ago, and this is another situation where there's obviously lots of social media posts. Here is an alert that shots were fired downtown, and which triggered an alert. And then, of course, we have specific geolocation, so it tells the place where the shooting actually began. And then, of course, people start commenting on what they saw. Here, it's like 2 officers were shot in the park to the left, and so we're seeing this unfold time and time again, where an event happens almost immediately, practically within 1 minute. You're seeing people pull out their phones, and I a couple of years ago, when we first launched the technology, there was an airliner crash, and I believe it was at SFO, and it was the Asiana airliner crash. And what was remarkable is that individuals, as they were walking off the plane, remember, they just had a crash landing, right? They just had a crash landing. The airliner is smoking. They're walking off the plane, and before they exit the blast radius, they just walk off the plane, they turn, many of the passengers turned around in harm's way to record what had just happened to them, and with like live video and pictures.
Jeez. Because
it was so important. They would literally, the plane could have blown up right there. And so, but yet sharing and recording what happened was so important. And so this is why we see almost an immediate surge in data, coming from an event, such as an airliner crash, or, and by the way, it can be a positive event too. When Rory McIlroy won his first golf championship, I think the commissioner of the PGA was standing there with the trophy on live TV, getting ready to hand it to him, and he said, "Hold on one moment, stand there, please." And so he took a picture, and they said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I have to share it with, I have to share this on Twitter before I accept the trophy. I have to send it out on Twitter before I actually get it on TV." So this is the phenomenon we're seeing.
So now, in the Dallas case, is this client data? There's a client there that happened to see this stuff, or is this stuff you gathered after?
This is stuff we gathered. Our customers, have access to it as part of the subscription. Right. And in this case, this is, coming from public safety professionals in the Dallas region.
So this is such real time. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I suppose they do, or police departments use this in real-time application like that? In other words, they're going to hear about that on social media before somebody's going to call their dispatch center, and their dispatch center is going to be overwhelmed with calls and may go down, which happens sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yes. I think it's number one, getting ahead of events, and ultimately keeping the public safe before things turn into major situations, and that's, I think, an important mission. The other component is situational awareness. Like if a call comes into a dispatch center, is this real? What's the magnitude? Should we, what's the veracity of the call? And it's used to augment the allocation of resources.
Yeah, right? Social media is going to support whether that's a real event or a fake call too. Yeah.
Well, and you know what's interesting? I can't help but thinking about this, about the profound positive impact that this type of sophisticated analysis can serve. When I was a teenager in Tel Aviv, there was a bomb in Dizengoff, and I was on the bus. And back then, there was no social media. There were only phones. And as soon as the bombing occurred, all of our phones died. The network was just overflooded by people trying to call home and let their family know that they're okay. So my family didn't know that I was okay for more than an hour because I had no way to reach them. And so just having this type of system where not only you confirm, but you have real-time information and you have an ability to let people know either to get away from the area or that their loved ones are okay, just this sophisticated way, I think has such a profound positive utility
I think so.
in
Well,
reality of stress.
Phil, from your analytics,
Sorry.
can you see the way that the information builds out? I mean, does it? And I've got another question following this. So when you look at it, does it start with one person and then they share it and it shares into 10 and 20, or is it a bunch of different people sending it out at the same time?
Well,
And Phil, I think your camera came off there for a second. Turn your camera on for us for a minute.
Okay, yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me just get out of the. Here, hold on.
See, we can get a tweet all the way across the world. We can't fix our Skype cameras. Got to work on that
I
one.
can see it.
I can't figure Skype out myself.
There's going to
trying
be
to get
something
back.
better than Skype soon.
Well, just narrate
can
while
see
we're
them on
going
the
over
right,
this. Yeah,
yeah.
that's fine.
Well, let me answer the question.
Yeah.
We're not looking at the retweets, meaning or once how many times it's shared after it's published. We're looking just at the original posts to see, what's actually happened at a place. There are other platforms that look at connections of people and who's talking to whom. For us, it's more about authenticating what's happened and then help our customers formulate a response. And I think Dr. D brings up a great point. What we hope is that then there's an outbound communication with in the case of government, to the constituents. And we had a case in West Virginia where there was a train spill of chemicals into a river. The governor came out and said, don't drink the water. It's contaminated. The ground table water is contaminated. But what we noticed on social media was that people were saying the water's fine to drink. The well water, everything is fine to drink. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And so we notified West Virginia. We have some customers there detected it and then went to the governor's office and said, well, hey, this is a crisis. We have to partner with the local news and the governor needs to come out and say, look, people think it's safe to drink the water. We could have a major health epidemic on our hands if we don't get the message out. So I think it can be full circle to embrace the public, and that's a great example of that in practice.
With the increased use of like law enforcement with this sort of information, is there a possibility that down the road, an organisation, terrorist organisation, could use what law enforcement are taking? Supposing you got a bunch of people tweeting out, or if they find a way of actually sending out a bunch of tweets or a bunch of Facebook posts, and law enforcement thinks something's happening in one part of the city.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the old fake call.
And yet it's a version of the fake call. Is there a possibility of somebody doing that somehow?
It's very possible, and in fact, it does happen in places like the Middle East, for example. It's a challenge with social media because anybody can publish anything at any time for any reason, and they can Photoshop the pictures and make it look very authentic. Where we guide our customers is, we say if a lot of people are complaining or commenting about a situation, or there's a wide range of formats from a whole bunch of different kinds of profiles of people, then the veracity of that is pretty real. If it's just one person commenting on it, you have to look critically at it and distill it. But really I guess it really speaks to our customers. They're professionals and they have to apply their professional judgment to it. But I think you're absolutely right. There's tremendous opportunities for misleading and misguiding people who are trying to do good work.
Phil, your feed's a little scratchy, and maybe we'll see if we can adjust that. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask Paul and talk to Dr. D about something real quick. I don't know if maybe you have to disconnect or reconnect or something. I'm not sure, but it was a little bit scratchy. So I don't know if you remember, and Phil, you can hear this. We did a show, 4 or 5 months ago, and remember there was that article about that organization in Russia, and they sit around all day, and they make up fake stories on the internet.
Yeah.
And they spoofed an entire production, Hollywood-style production, through the internet of pictures of a chemical plant getting blown up in the South, news footage, people talking on camera, cars, the thing blew up, nothing. It never happened. Yeah. And everybody's responding to it. All the people were chasing their tails. I think that was a test. I think it was some kind of organized test for some kind of diversion
it's
event.
another version of who was the guy that did the alien invasion? Orwell?
George Orwell, yeah.
Orson Welles.
War of the Worlds, right.
Orson Welles. No,
Yeah.
when he did the radio show.
On Halloween, that's right.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
So back to your point, we're talking about people's inability to filter these things and say, well, I don't know if it's real or not real. When I see something, the first thing I tell everybody is, here's what I know for sure. That what they just said is not even close to what the real facts are. And we're going to find out more. And so I don't even care what they say in the first 24 hours because it's all nonsense.
You know, it's interesting what you're saying. I have two quick comments about that. One of them is I started developing an interest in school shooters about 7-8 years ago. And I've decided to fly to Sandy Hook and learn really what actually occurred there.
That's
and
good
what
because some
occurred
people think it
aftermath.
didn't happen. Right?
Of course, the
Yeah.
hoax of
Right.
Sandy Hook, right? One thing that I learned from profound 3 days that I spent with individuals who actually in leadership had to deal with the event in real time is that so much information that came through media and credible media outlets was incorrect.
Right.
So much of that did not actually match factual things that actually happened.
It seldom does.
And seldom does. And actually, so much important information was never covered and disclosed and shared. And so that was a big lesson about the limitations, severe limitations of media. But, you know, you're talking about creating an event. I'm thinking about what is happening to our creation of history.
Oh, yeah.
Of books of history. How are we going to write the next books of history? What are they based on? What's right and what's wrong? What is going to be based on? On what we read in social media? On which report is correct?
Well, some of it will. I mean, some, you know, Paul was standing at Starbucks in Hollywood and Sunset and Gower and tweets a picture of a shooting that starts off. You're the first guy that saw it. I mean, that's going to go in a history book as the person that found out about it, right? Yeah. Everybody's 15 minutes. But there's such an easy ability to manipulate that into some other story or narrative or objective that it's dangerous.
But so you said something interesting. You said credible media.
Right
Does
there.
that
It's an
actually-
oxymoron.
Well, that's an oxymoron.
Right there, an
Where the
oxymoron.
hell is that?
But you know,
Media.
it's funny when you're saying that, and we were talking about that before the show, actually, that, you know, there's so many outlets now that call themselves media and profess to be credible media.
We do.
And we buy it. We all buy it. So if you're a conservative, you buy these channels. And if you're a Democrat, you buy these channels. And if you're an anarchist, you buy these channels.
Very
is crazy.
few people look at. I mean, I'm one of the few people that actually listen to all the
I look at
different
all- yeah,
channels.
right.
I mean, I'll sit there and then I'll take the middle one. You know, in the middle that seems.
It's funny
to
you
be
say that.
the
I do the
truth.
same thing. I watch all kinds of channels of media, and I want to see how they all cover it so
And
I
they're
can
all
get
different.
as much information.
And they're all totally different.
Right.
It's
Now, Phil,
ridiculous.
I think what's powerful about this application in Geophedia is that, like it or leave it, the data is just probably by people. We're going to filter out terrorists. Let's filter them out. The average guy walking through the park sees a bomb go off at the airport, tweets about it. That's probably good data, right? And it's different data because there's not some sort of editorial filter on top of it. It's just out there. I can see Geophedia being the next, not you per se, because you're giving the raw data to people. But would people take stuff from Geophedia and make it a news story? How do the news organizations use Geophedia? Because you don't seem to see as many social media posts on the regular news as I think we should. I think there's more information in those things, and the news maybe reads it for information purposes and then filters it down into what their story is.
So organizations rely on Geophedia to identify eyewitnesses, capture images, videos, and then they get and then break the story. Now, how they interpret it, what messages, is their editorial purview. What we see on social media, though, is a very detailed chronology of what happened, when and where, and you can't deny it when you see the stream of information and how it unfolds minute by minute. An event happens, incident, during incident, and post incident, and so it's when we talk about history, it is a very raw and real experience that you see on social media through video, tweets, and pictures from people who actually experienced it right there without any sort of filtering lens on, what is the impact. I mean, you can see the impact. And so this chronology is, unbelievable set of information and it's remarkably consistent. People will say the same things about what they've seen and experiencing, and that's really what happened. What people saw and witnessed and felt while they were. That's
interesting, because Paul and I know as police officers, when we talk to 5 witnesses, we tend to get a little different stories, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But I could see where this is a real-time emotional response to something, and you take a picture, that's going to be consistent.
Well,
with
it's got to be the same picture, isn't it?
Same picture and the same experience mostly,
Yeah,
and you're
same
not telling a
timeline.
whole story. You're not telling a whole story. You're basically giving bits of information.
Right.
Bomb here,
But
people
maybe
dying.
more accurate bits, though. Instead of
Right.
a reporter, they got to talk like we have to talk. We have to keep talking and we have dead air. So they got to fill up the news station with something, whether it's conjecture or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the
And
danger.
like us, some of it's nonsense.
Yeah. Now, Phil, your audio's a little scratchy, but I wonder if we could go to a live demo. Could we show a place live and just show what social media is going on?
Or Japan, or is that?
No, I think we should go to Hollywood and see who's standing outside.
Or the fire.
All our stalkers out. No,
See if it's
the
on the
fire.
fire.
How about the fire,
Yeah.
Phil? There's a fire up,
'Cause that actually
up north from us
affected
here.
I was stuck
Can
in
we
that
zoom in
fire
on something and
today.
take a look at it?
There's a fire. Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's in Santa
Santa
Clarita.
Clarita.
It's called the Sand Canyon, or the Sand Fire.
Okay, let's go to where it's happening.
California,
Santa-
Southern California. It's called the Sand Fire.
Well, maybe you have to have a geographic area. Santa Clarita.
Santa Clarita.
Yeah, Santa Clarita, California. I can't even say it.
Okay, share my screen with you again.
It's actually
It's in
not
Sa-
in Santa Clarita. It's
It's
outside.
Santa Clara.
Santa Clarita.
Clarita, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So Phil's going to try and show us
Does
the
that
screen
sound the
here.
same in English? Clarita, as in.
You say it better than I do. I can't roll my R, I
It
guess.
sounds better.
Well, you guys conquered
Clarita.
everybody, so you have all those accents.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We're
So
going to.
Phil's
We
going-
just entered the Geo platform.
Because this
And
has affected a
We
lot
went
of
to Santa
people.
Clarita.
yeah, this
and
is
we
a
can
live
perform
feed.
it.
And apparently the freeway's
Yeah.
closed again, from what I understand.
I was stuck there for
Oh,
a
was it?
few.
Well,
Yeah.
So if somebody had a
Yesterday this morning.
subscription, Phil, this is what they'd be looking at. They'd be looking at your screen. You're going to log in. You're going to type in a
Yes.
geographical area. Okay. Do a little search in
And
there.
do you know where it's happening in Santa? This is the raw data coming from Santa Clarita. Do you know where it's happening?
Would be on the 14.
But here we go. So many other fire departments helping, thankfully. Here's like a video of somebody. I guess a bunch of fire trucks showed up in Santa Clarita. So some sharing their, showing the actual fire truck. We can probably go down and find something that the fire here in the pictures.
Yeah, look, we're seeing this is all social media happening right now about that fire. And it's all gathered from a lot of different sources. I can only see what I'm looking at Facebook in my real time, but you're looking at all these feeds.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, wow, look at all those.
No, look.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
so
lot.
this
Oh,
is
that's
all
pretty
these.
amazing.
Every pin
What-
is a pin. Yeah.
What do the colors represent?
I think the different types of media.
Different types of social
Yeah.
media? That's what
So you're a little scratchy, Phil, so I'm going to interpret for people. We're looking at a map of that Santa Clarita area fire. It's a big fire, and there's a geofence, a circle around that area, and hundreds of social media
Yeah, look at
posts
that.
about the fire in there in real time. That's something the fire department could be using right now to look and say, hey, somebody,
yeah.
Well,
the hill
people that aren't evacuating or
people that
something,
aren't
really should be
evacuating.
going.
Yeah, the guy, Paul.
Yeah.
Paul's going to be sitting in his house tweeting while they're trying to get him out of there.
They're trying to get me out.
Catch you and drag you
Huh.
out. That's very close to your house, right?
It's pretty.
Yeah.
We're covered in ash, put it that way.
Man, it's amazing to me, Phil, how
Yeah.
fast that is and how that comes up like that. It's so easy to do. It's amazing.
Yes, speed is very important. Response efforts. Every moment that goes by, it could be a life could be impacted or
I bet you
a
could.
certain customer experience, and so speed is the big issue for us to
I
always
bet you
tackle.
could tell where the freeway is from that, because there's
Right,
got to be a
the
stack of
pattern.
people sitting in their cars tweeting, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
you
it's
could
going
zoom in
on.
on the map, right? So this is representative of a wide area, but you can how close down can your geofence go?
You can go into a like a 1 block radius within a neighborhood or a stadium or a campus, a college campus
Yeah.
or some other church. So we can go.
Interesting.
We can draw a shape around. I know. Here's Valencia Town Center.
No,
Or no,
a lot of
yeah.
people are familiar with
look.
that. Yeah. So he's zooming in on that. Is that Google Maps or something? What I'm seeing behind that, or
This is right now. I'm showing Bing Maps,
Okay.
but we can use any sort of base map there that we
Right.
when you Google or.
Are you Are you able to profile the type of people that are sending those messages?
Oh, good
Oh,
question.
profile's not a good word.
Yeah.
That's an Israeli word. Don't say
it's
that.
politically incorrect.
No, we
No, they're just raw data. That's up to you to interpret it.
yeah, we use location as our filter, not the person's kind of gender or race or ethnicity. We're looking for the location signals coming from places, and we're focusing on events. Now, people are actually taking those pictures and videos and uploading those. So sometimes that results in some downstream, eyewitness accounts and whatnot. But our first filter is location.
I think when I did the show with you in ISC West in Chicago a couple years ago, you had a case where the cops showed up and everybody said, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. They went back and reviewed this, and 2 girls who had denied seeing it had actually put some photos of the body on Instagram or something like that,
Right.
and cracked the case. I mean, give me a few more examples of how this is solving crimes. It's
Yeah,
really
I
fascinating.
think it's very powerful for post-incident analysis to see who was there, and to help law enforcement to respond to these situations. So yeah, we've had situations where there's been unfortunate accident or incident, and the police arrive and they're trying to figure out what happened to, in that instance, the deceased, and it was at a house party, and there were pictures of the party all over a wide range of social media sources, and so of the victim, even the victim, and so I think the natural thread there was for public safety and law enforcement professionals to look at the data and say, okay, this person was alive at midnight, they're dead at 2 a.m. How do we figure out who could help us, identify
Right.
what happened, right? It's a logical set of public information to look at in an extreme situation like a homicide.
So how many, not how many like as a number, but just as a general sense, are police departments catching on to this? Are they a growing client base? Are they hesitant because they're not sure how it works? I think every law enforcement agency in the country should have this as standard equipment, so to speak. Really?
Appreciate that. We do have 2 sides to our business. We have a large corporate business. Corporations are concerned about their employee safety and their operations and their customer experience, and so we have a big segment there. But we also have a large set of public safety and law enforcement professionals. It's catching on, but it's just very new. It's very, very new. So we're learning with our customers on how to adopt it and how to operationalize it and who should use it. And I think there's a generational divide between sometimes the leadership within government on what can be done and how to use new technology versus maybe the private sector. I think there's a little bit of a lag. So we're seeing a lot of adoption and a lot of uptake, but it's I think relative to the value, you'd think it'd be even faster. But I think it's just the nature of a technology adoption. This is very, very new, and it's happening so fast. And that's why I like to start the show with the kind of what's happening in the world today, because even I was surprised when we first started this company, the amount of data that was available. It blew me away, because I don't share I'm close to 50. I don't share a lot of information on social media. I'm a very private person, and I was very surprised that people want to express their views and share what's happening all day, every day.
So, Phil, we lost your camera. See if we can get that back up. And then we got about 5 minutes. I want to get a couple more points here. So, Paul, to your point, we talk about the police departments a lot, right? I think every police department should have this. Yeah. I think, like we talked about before, there's this technology gap. So I had a computer since 1984. I get it. But none of my friends did. They don't even use
and
Quick.
Why is that? It's ridiculous.
Well, I think
weird.
Our generation is a group of people. They weren't older, so they weren't the scientists inventing this stuff, right? Because there's that group, and they're people older. Right. And there's not the younger people who get it because it was on the shelf to buy. It's just this hole in the middle.
Gap, right.
It's a
but
gap.
when you look at law enforcement, most coppers like toys, right?
Yeah, but
these are toys.
It is a toy.
Yeah.
So if you're
strange.
LAPD and I'm New York, and we were both chiefs, I'd have this and I'd have a tweet off.
Yeah.
I'd set up a social media campaign where both agencies tweet each other
Right.
and outdo each other with tweets and equipment and cars and make it a positive thing.
Yeah.
And I think policemen are trained to withhold information, keep it secret, it's confidential. That's fair. Okay, there's criminal cases. They're taught not to bring this stuff home. They're taught not to talk about it, which is what, my board of foundation position at board of directors at Under the Shield, it's about the stress cops go through, right? So I think they can't make that connection between it's okay to be social, it's okay to say hi to people and be friendly.
Then on the other end, we are taught to pull information from other people.
I know, and this is where you can get it
Right.
from. I think
And part of that, to be the devil's advocate is when you work on investigating other individuals, you try to be less exposed as possible. And so part of being engaged in social media gets you exposed to the public.
It does. I agree. But it changes the image. And I think police officers have a difficult time now with the image because they don't own it. The media owns it. The media can put out what they want about a tweet.
Yeah.
The media puts out their own Instagram. And some bad things have happened. So I'm not saying they haven't. But for the most part, it's not what it looks like. It just isn't.
Some of the most effective videos now on social media are of officers hugging people.
That's right.
Hanging out with them, doing nice things. You hardly see that. But I also think in general, people like the outrageous people or media channels or companies like the outrageous negative content, not the positive content. It sells.
Yeah.
I think coppers should all carry cats and dogs around.
Puppies. People puppies.
And that'll be it.
So, Phil, we got about 3 minutes. Give us your thought on this, where you think this is going. I just see so much potential in this. And, again, I'm going to encourage all my law enforcement brothers and sisters to get on the phone and give Phil a call. This is not an infomercial. I really believe in this stuff. I've seen this stuff in use. It's amazing and it's effective. And for all my nieces and nephews that tweet really kind of gross, inappropriate stuff, beware. Phil's looking at you, all right? Just be careful. So, Phil, take it away.
Well, first of all, we really appreciate the opportunity to partner with our government clients and private sector clients to do good work. I think I think Dr. D mentioned it. The whole idea here is to use social media in positive ways to benefit the world at large. And it is a powerful technology, and it's powerful because people want their voices to be heard. And so enabling that information, empowering organizations to actually take steps to perform their good work and their good service and support their mission. I mean, that's our goal. And hopefully we can help prevent really bad things from happening. And we started the company, there was a major global event. It seemed like once every 6 months, and then it became once every 3 months. And the last 45 days have been some of the saddest in our world's history that I've seen. It's happening like twice a day. So certainly we are helping our customers identify that those things have happened before the news media. But I really think social media will be the news. It is the news. It kind of is the news. And so if you want that raw and unfiltered real story or real information, I think platforms like Geopedia represent the future. We only see continued sharing on a global basis. And again, the goal here is to perform good work and partner as we explore this new technology together as a community.
Phil, thanks for coming on Security Guy Radio. Dr. D, parting comments?
My pleasure. And my comments are, I agree that whether we like it or not, social media is the existence of today and the future.
It's the new norm.
And it's a study of human behavior, so we can't turn our back away on that. We have to learn it and be very intelligent and sophisticated and knowledgeable about how it works, because it is what we do.
Mr. Paul, would the Bobbies use this?
Yes, and I'm going to stop putting my breakfast on the
stop putting those
Facebook.
Bubbles and Squeak on Instagram. That's correct.
Squeak, nice.
Phil, thanks for joining us from Geopedia, geopedia.com. Check us out on securityguyradio.com and all our social media platforms. Let me see if I can get this right. SoundCloud, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr.
Told you to write it down.
I got to write them all down.
Stitcher?
Spreaker,
iTunes. Did we say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Google Plus, which nobody listens to. Just kidding, Google. Just kidding. We'll see you next week on Security Guy Radio. Good night.
Cheers.
Bye.